Laney here, talking about two of the variables associated with communicating with Asperger's versus neurotypicals. One being the tempo or the speed of speaking, and the other one being the volume of the voice. I urge you, if you're a neurotypical or if you like things to be faster, all you have to do is click on the settings button of your YouTube settings, and you may put the video at 1.5x. On the other hand, if you're listening to someone doing a podcast that seems to be talking really, really fast, which is the norm these days, just click on 0.75. Now, I found that about a month or two ago, maybe it was two or 3 months ago, YouTube only offered 0.5 and 1, and recently I was delighted to see the 0.75. Now 0.5 is way too slow. Even if someone's talking really, really fast like this, the 0.5 is just way too slow for anyone, even in Asperger. But 0.75 is tolerably fast enough, but slow enough to slow things down. So it's kind of like a sweet spot. So I noticed that as a half Aspie, as I endearingly call myself, I find that many times when I'm listening to the typical rant or scientific discussion on YouTube, they will talk really fast. And they kind of do it on purpose because the attention span of Americans is very, very short. And so they want to get out their ideas really, really fast. And so they talk and they say it really, really fast, and then they edit out all the spaces. And this seems to be very irritating for me as being a borderline Asperger. And I imagine that it is very difficult for a full-fledged Asperger like my son, because he's always telling me to talk slower, Mom, talk slower. I can't even hear what you're saying. So this is a very important variable to consider when you're communicating to someone that has Aspie traits. While you may not want to come out and ask them, oh, are you an Aspie? I mean, they may not even know. But if you do have somebody that's very much in their head, has a large head, talks, they may talk very quickly because they have so many ideas in their head, and they're limited to the one-dimensionality of speech, words on a timeline, that they may, talk very, very quickly. And it takes them a great effort to slow down. However, when they're listening to you and they don't already know what you're going to say, it really behooves you to talk much slower so that they can understand what you're saying. Now, you don't want to do this to just anyone, because a neurotypical may think, why are you talking so slow to me? Do you think I'm stupid? But you see, the Asperger mind listens to the words and analyzes them not just on the surface or not just on the what you would call the normal levels, but they analyze them in maybe 20 contexts at once. So when somebody's talking to me about, say, a physics problem or a physics concept, they may be talking, in a relatively fast speed, but when I'm able to slow them down to 0.75 of their speed, I can then have the leisure and the luxury of listening to their ideas and simultaneously considering those physics thoughts in a context of spirituality, in the context of the discussions I've been having with my son on his linguistics development, and in, of course, the context of which it's meant in the domain of physics. Also, I like to think of it in the domain of art, and maybe a few other domains, which I don't need to mention here. So, in order for the person to slow down, if the person slows down, then it allows me to think on these deeper levels. And a lot of Aspergers like to do this all the time for everything they do, for everything they engage in. They're in many contexts at once. And so you may think that you're talking slow to them because they're stupid, but that's actually not right. The correct interpretation is that you slow it down so that they can not engage 2 contexts, but maybe 6 or more contexts at once. And listening to your thoughts in all those contexts, it allows them to get much deeper levels of meaning and much more interconnectedness between the different contexts. So that's all I'll say about speed. What I'll say next is about volume. If you're in a quiet environment and you're talking to another Asperger's, And I'm saying this because I've learned it for myself when I talk to other Aspies. Often, when I talk in a more quiet volume, it allows for the mood of peace to be present. And it also allows me to slow down. It's kind of like the soft volume invites the slower speed. And when I talk like this and I'm really, really fast and I'm really, really loud, don't you see how you really want to tense up your shoulders and you just, But if I say the same thing in a very non-aggressive way, that's slow, contemplative, quiet, pleasant, and calming, that is conducive to an atmosphere of relaxation in which the Aspie mind feels no need to fight back, no need to defend his or herself. And what happens then is their hippocampus decides that it's not a threatening situation. But if you raise your voice and you start talking fast, the brain automatically thinks that it's something worth fighting against. But if you talk slowly and quietly, their hippocampus does not send any signal to the amygdala that things are stressful. Rather, their hippocampus is as quiet and placid as when the Aspie is alone in nature and there are no threats. And then that Aspie will see you as a non-threatening being, and therefore their amygdala will not begin to fire. Now, it has been measured in Aspergers Brains that for the same stress level, their amygdala fires at a much higher amplitude, and coupled with the relevant finding that the Asperger's higher thinking portion of the brain up here thinks with lower amplitude, it turns out that the higher amplitude firings of the stressed amygdala will disturb the thought process. In other words, it will sabotage the logical thought processes in the higher thinking portions of the brain in the Asperger. So it's very, very important if you're an Asperger and you want to be able to make your environment such that you can think in the most efficient manner, to not be stressed. And this is why Asperger's people do very well in nature environments and need to have an office with a closed door, and they need to have they need to have control over their environment so that there are no harsh smells, there are no chemical smells that might give them a headache, there are no loud noises, there are no interruptions, and there is no stress or urgency, so that they can then listen and or think and create thoughts in their mind with maximum efficiency. So, in conclusion, when I'm talking to my Asperger son and many other Aspergers, I find it much more useful and pleasant to talk slowly and quietly in a soft voice, and also in a quiet environment. My father is also Asperger's, and when I'm in a very, very quiet environment with him, all of a sudden I don't have to shout anymore. I can talk very softly and he can hear me and he can understand what I'm saying, especially if I talk slow like this, with pauses between every group of words. It's easy to think that he's completely deaf when you're trying to talk to him in a noisy restaurant, because he'll say, "I can't hear you, I can't hear you." But it's not that he can't hear me, it's that he can't process what I'm saying. Well, thank you for letting me share these thoughts with you, and I hope they've been of use. Peace.